Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I am delighted to have this opportunity to interview Nancy Linnerooth, who is an emotional freedom technique expert for women entrepreneurs. Nancy, who lives in Seattle, Washington, works virtually with people from all over the world. She draws on 9 years as a Harvard Law School trained attorney, 17 years as a therapist, and 14 years as a practitioner of emotional freedom techniques to help women entrepreneurs figure out and release their underlying subconscious blocks that cause the procrastination, avoidance, and self-sabotage that holds them back so that they can have a truly successful business to be proud of. Nancy is one of the experts featured in Sarah Connell's bestseller titled The Science of Getting Rich for Women, which is about the importance of and how to release blocks in the subconscious that get in the way of getting rich. And she is the co-author of the new Amazon best-selling anthology titled Your First Year, What I Wish I'd Known, Lessons for Women Entrepreneurs for Women Entrepreneurs, which supports more women becoming leaders in their business, their industry, and the world. I'm looking forward to talking with Nancy about her own struggles with subconscious blocks and how she overcame them, the origins of blocks that Nancy has uncovered working with women entrepreneurs, how the emotional freedom technique, also referred to as EFT or tapping, gets rid of unconscious blocks, and more for what is surely going to be an interview with the potential of opening exciting new doors to healing and transformation for women in our Grief and Rebirth podcast audience. And full disclosure, I myself have used tapping as a healing modality, and it has been awesome for me. So now, with great pleasure, Nancy, a warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Oh, thank you, Irene. I'm blushing over here.
Well, it's all true. You're amazing. So let's have everybody get to know you a little bit, because you have such an extensive background and it led you to where you are today. So you spent 9 years as a Harvard Law School trained attorney, 17 years as a therapist, and you've been a practitioner of EFT or emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping, for 14 years. What inspired you? Well, what a journey, Nancy. Attorney to therapist, then a practitioner of EFT.
I stumbled into being a lawyer because I took a test when I was in college. I mean, I was an English major. What are you going to do with an English major? So I thought, well, I should better find out what I could be doing. And I took this test and it told me I should be a librarian, which didn't seem that interesting to me, or an advertising executive or a lawyer. And I thought, well, I guess I can figure out what a lawyer is. So I went to law school, became a lawyer, and it really never took 9 years of that.
What lawyer were you? What was your specialty?
I was a litigator. So the kind that goes to trial goes into the court and talks to the judge. Corporate stuff. So, sort of, it sounds more exciting than it was. There was a lot of research in the law library and writing briefs and things, but it did teach me to go digging for where is this coming from? What is this all about? So that has really helped me. My husband reminds me of that periodically, that no, it was a good thing you were a lawyer, because now you don't just take things at surface value. You go looking. So I did that. And then finally it became enough that I just couldn't keep going. And I decided to go with what I'd actually wanted to do back in high school. I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to be Bob Newhart. You remember the very first Bob Newhart show where he's in Chicago, and I thought that's a great life. I want that. I really wanted to help people heal and be happy in their lives. So I went back to school, became a marriage and family therapist. And I did that for, 17 years. There was a few years off in the middle there where I was on maternity leave and had burned out a bit. I only went back to doing therapy because I had learned tapping. It gave me some skills and some abilities that I hadn't had from my basic training. And it allowed me to work with traumas and anxieties in ways that worked so much better than what I had been taught. So I did that, but I'd actually started just a couple of years into my therapy practice. I'd started this little coaching practice on the side, which was just sort of to balance out the heaviness of the anxiety and depression with, working with working well people, just to help them have a better life, really create the life they wanted.
You're dealing with these people in marital situations and all who are having all this trauma, and then you're also though now coaching people to do what?
Well, it started with making career change, because by then I figured I knew a little bit about career change, right? But then it actually fairly quickly morphed into helping people with businesses. So many people, when they figured out what they really wanted to do with their life, wanted to have a business. And so I was helping them with that. And what really got me into what I'm doing now is that over and over again in my coaching practice, I would have a handful of people for whom the usual accountability coaching didn't work. Accountability coaching is where the coach helps you figure out what your goal is, and then you break that goal down into steps. They're manageable. You put them on the calendar, and then you check in with them every week or two and say, yeah, I did step X, now step Y. It works great, because there's something about promising somebody you'll take an action and then knowing that they're going to ask you about it. That gets you off the couch, going and doing it, right? Well, it did work really well for lots of clients, and not so much for this handful of clients. I always had some, and they'd come back week after week and, I didn't get to it, or, I did it, but I kind of wrecked it, or, I forgot about it. I mean, this is their life. This is what they really want to be doing, and they forgot about it. I mean, it was really fascinating to me. So I brought in the tapping, which I had learned in the therapy world. I brought it into my coaching practice to find out what was going on.
So when you were taking on modalities for therapy to help people, tapping was one of them that you learned.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Actually, I learned that at a training long after I'd gotten my master's degree. It was just 20 minutes out of a 2-day training. It was like, if you're going to work with this population, you ought to have this tool and many other tools in your tool belt. And so I learned it just from that 20 minutes. I took it into my therapy practice the next day. I said, I learned this thing yesterday. Do you want to try it? To my first client. And he said, sure, I'll give it a try. And I had him pick a memory. So he picked one from when he was 12. How do you feel now when you think about the memory? Oh, I'm anxious. 0 to 10, how anxious are you? I'm an 8. And he was punching holes in the arms of my armchair, just talking about this memory without even saying what happened in the memory, just saying it existed. So I took him through this round of tapping. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I'd been to 20 minutes of this training. I'd read a 40-page PDF about it, but I thought, okay, we'll give it a try. So we did a single round. And afterwards I said, okay, it's the same memory, same 0 to 10 scale. How anxious do you feel now thinking about it? And I figured he was going to say, Nancy, I'm still an 8. Can we do real therapy now? And he said, it's just a memory. I was shocked.
Wow.
Hey, there's something here. I've got to figure this one out. So I went on to maternity leave. And while I was away, I learned this. And I just kept learning more and more. At one point I got certified, and I just kept learning different ways of using it. And it has just grown from there. It's been amazing. And so the coaching practice took over, and I eventually stopped doing therapy to really focus on helping people get rid of these subconscious blocks that keep them from taking action, from going after the life they want. They come from all sorts of places, but they get into your subconscious. You might not even know you have them.
Yes,
but with tapping, uncover them.
I swear, I'm your poster child. That happened to me recently. I was working with someone and I didn't even realize why I was stuck somewhere. And through tapping, it came right up for me. And I was able to purge it in a way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you had your own struggles with subconscious blocks. So you yourself had to overcome them. So tell us about that and how releasing them changed your life. Because that's how you, I guess, inspire other people, because you had your own.
Oh, yes, totally. I mean, they say you teach what you need to learn. I mean, there is a reason that I work with women business owners on subconscious blocks, because I've had practically all of them. I had started my business back in 2001, 2002, something like that. Added the tapping in 2006, but it never grew very much. I learned all these different ways to market and sell, and nothing made it change. And I finally realized that what was going on was, like the people in my coaching practice, I had something underneath that was keeping me from the kind of success that I wanted. I wanted to grow that coaching enough that I could finish with the therapy, because therapy was a little too constrictive in what I could do and how I could help people. And yet it just, year after year, it wasn't changing. So I ended up looking and looking and looking. I started with money blocks. I came from a family that very loving, very marvelous parents. And I have no regrets there. And they gave me a lot of lack mentality, a lot of feeling like I had a money ceiling. I had fears that I wasn't allowed to have money, that if I have money, people will hate me. I get all of the blocks that come around money. So first of all, I couldn't make much money, or if some money came in one month, it would go away the next. And it's over and over again that came up. I also uncovered blocks around visibility, like networking and being able to talk about what I do. And then there were blocks around hiring people. So I put those into the buckets of mindset, visibility, and profitability, MVP.
That's
the all.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, how long did it take you to work on yourself? Do you feel that those blocks got released?
I don't know. I've been working on them since about 2007, and I don't think I'm done.
That's the way I am about healing. I'm never quite done, because it's such a...
Well, they do say that that advancing entrepreneurs are always working on their mindset. And it really does seem to be the case that as I release some, I can grow, my business can grow, I can do bigger things, but eventually I'll hit the next batch of them and need to release them then.
Yeah. Can you explain to everybody, because tapping involves tapping on different parts of the body. It's about balancing energy. I know that. And it's also, it reduces both physical and emotional pain. So could you explain the principle of the tapping and what that's about? And
well, I tend to go into more of the science side of things. There is a lot of science that's come in now to explain more about tapping and to show that it is effective. So I just gave a talk a couple of days ago that included a lot of what's going on with the science. But I think what I'll just be really clear about is that when you tap, there's research out there from, I think, Harvard Medical School that shows when you manipulate these acupoints, they're used in acupressure and acupuncture. And when you're tapping or rubbing or using the needles for acupuncture, it's in effect sending a message of safety and calm to the amygdala. The amygdala is where your emotions get and stress gets triggered. That's where the fight, flight, or freeze response comes out of. So it downgrades any hyperarousal in your amygdala. It just basically says, chill out, you're fine. And so that can be
trauma
great.
Trauma is what sets the amygdala.
Yes.
Right? Sets it off, right?
Very much so, yes. And trauma triggers. So even if the trauma is in your past, if you are reminded of it, something comes up that reminds you of what happened, you can go right back into feeling that. I mean, if you've got full-blown PTSD, for sure. But trauma can happen in all sorts of areas. And in the therapy world, you talk about trauma, capital T trauma, that would be like war or accidents, life-threatening things. But then there's also little t trauma. And that can be traumas of like social experiences, or, traumas where the parent was okay, but they still gave the child a message. And I've seen this with so many clients, that they weren't good enough. They didn't deserve. I mean, that's probably the biggest block out there.
Who are you to do this?
Yep. I remember one client who it was her go-to when it was like, what's going on with this one? Oh, who am I? Who am I to be this big? Who am I to be this successful? Yeah, we get those messages. So yeah, my understanding is, and they haven't done the research on exactly the kind of tapping I do. They're doing mostly about PTSD and phobias and such. But the understanding I have is that when you can interrupt the connections in the brain with the tapping, with that, hey, it's okay, you disconnect the trigger with that response. And so that's sort of a very general description of what I think is happening when I'm tapping with somebody on their subconscious block. We're bringing up all the thoughts that get triggered by, I want to have this, but I can't have it because, and we interrupt them and we disconnect them, and then they don't connect back up.
That's fantastic. You need to work with someone, because they're not tapping in the same places all the time. Are they? Are there different locales or different issues that go on? Or
well, actually,
or the different thought? How does that work?
There is something called thought field therapy, TFT, from which EFT came. So I do EFT, and that's just the same pattern over and over and over again. Now, it can be used in all sorts of different ways by what you're thinking about and what the practitioner is leading you through. Thought field therapy, as my understanding is, it's more intricate patterns. So instead of doing the same pattern that I would do, so going around the eye and then down under the chin, they might start here and then go to here and then come up here and then over here. And it's supposed to reach the meridians, the energy meridians that run through your body in the right way. Now, EFT just does the same pattern, but the fellow who came up with it, Gary Craig, pointed out that with his engineering brain, he looked at the system and he said, well, if you just do the same pattern over again, eventually you will tap on the order that you were supposed to have. You'll hit a few in the middle, but that's okay. You'll get there. Yeah. So you can do it on your own. You can do it just do the very simple, straightforward stuff. And for some things, that's great. There are people who tap every day just to sort of feel a little bit better and relax, clear out whatever came up during the day. For me, I don't do that. Many practitioners are like, oh yeah, I should tap on that, but I forgot to do it. So that's a little behind the scenes with practitioners. But the other thing is that I can't tap on my own subconscious blocks. And many, many people just can't. I mean, it's like you can't see the forest for the trees. When you're in it, it's all real. And you can't find the ways to tap on it, to let it loosen its grip. And so I think there are times to tap on your own, and there are times to get a practitioner, particularly when you have big trauma, big T trauma. That would be a time to go with a tapping practitioner who actually is trained up in working with trauma. So I had to put that in there.
No, I'm glad you did. And the thing I think about you that's really important is that some people are not aware exactly what their trauma is. So you have a system that identifies and ranks those internal blocks that are holding a person back, right? You want to talk?
I do. Yeah.
So she says, I'm stuck. I can't figure out why I'm not moving forward or whatever. I don't know what it is. So you're able to help her identify it, right?
Well, yes. And most people come to me knowing where they're stuck. Oh, I can't make more money. Oh, I know I'm supposed to create videos and put them out there. I just can't bring myself to do it. Or I have to hire somebody and I just can't even bring myself to put out a job description. So they come in with a problem. an area that they're blocked in, but they don't know where it's coming from. Usually, sometimes people do, but for the most part, it's like, I don't know what's going on. It must be me because other people can do it and I can't do it. So what do we do? So the first thing I do is I'm looking for the buckets. Is it a mindset issue? Is it a visibility issue? Is it profitability? MVP. And then I want to hear from them what they're saying about the issue. So if it's I make more money and then I stop doing my marketing and my money plummets and then I have to go scramble so that I can pay the rent. And then it comes up again, but over and over again, I'm on that money roller coaster. Okay, now I'm hearing a number of possible blocks there. Money might not be safe for them. So money's not safe. Or people in my family are not allowed to have money. Or if I have money, they'll hate me. If I have money, they'll criticize me. There's a number of things that could come up. Sometimes, though, they'll tell me something that, oh, I get it. I get like, call it a divine download if you want to. I had one client who had a business that would do okay, but they could never make it more than okay. And they should have been able to. They knew that completely. And in the process of talking with her, what came up was that she had plenty of money. What she would do with it was she would do more of her art because she was an artist. And so I had her rate the saying, I'm a starving artist. Mm-hmm. And it was through the roof, right? 100%. Oh yeah, it felt so powerful, even though she knew she didn't have to starve to be an artist. I mean, it wasn't logical or rational. It was just that saying had gotten lodged in her subconscious. And so once we had that, we could tap on it and release it. And then it's like, hey, I can be a successful artist. I can be doing lots with my art as my business grows. So I find it fascinating. My process, I'm trying to put it into a book now, my own book, that will describe ways that people can uncover their own blocks. But what it comes down to is it mindset, visibility, or profitability. That's where the common blocks, particularly for women entrepreneurs, are.
And most of them come from their childhoods, I would imagine, and trauma in their childhoods. Am I guessing right?
Yes. Yeah. Not always, but very often. And those are the harder ones to dislodge. Basically, before you're 7 years old, you are taking in the world around you in I guess it's a hypnotic, not exactly hypnosis, but your brainwaves are doing the same as they would do if you're in hypnosis. So you take it in just, this is the way it's supposed to be. And then as you get older and you start looking at it and say, hey, why should women make less than men? That doesn't make any sense. And so consciously you're saying, no, I'm going to make as much or more. Subconsciously, you got a rule in there that, well, women make less than men. It's just the way it is. So you have to be able to uncover it that way. But so childhood is where it's tough. I've had people who had something happen that was traumatic as an adult, and then they can also have a subconscious block. Those are usually faster and easier to get rid of.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you have a story about a Rita who came to you when she was going to lose her therapy practice. And 3 sessions of tapping with your guidance saved her practice. Tell us that story.
Well, it was really interesting because Rita had already closed down one therapy practice. She'd opened up her doors and she'd had a booming business. Plenty of people came to her. She had doctors who'd like to send their patients to her. And then those clients loved her. And she didn't make enough money. So she closed it down, went back to work for somebody else, then came back in and did it again because she knew she was supposed to be having her own practice. But it was happening again. And I thought, well, okay, so I bet I know what's going on. Therapists are notorious for not charging their clients. If they get sort of, oh, I'm here to help. How could I possibly ask for money? And it turned out that wasn't it, actually. What was going on was that Rita wasn't sending out the bills to the insurance companies. Oh. Now, therapists aren't really best friends with insurance companies. So it wasn't like she didn't want to hurt the insurance companies. That couldn't be it. So what was it? So what I ended up doing was I had Rita go home, go into her office for 2 hours to work on sending out the bills to the insurance companies. And that was all she was going to do. She was either sending out those bills or noticing what was coming up for her. So she came back the next week and I asked her, well, Rita, did you send out the bills? Nope, I did not. What happened? Well, I just kept thinking to myself, I'll never amount to anything. And it was like, wow, isn't that interesting? Well, it turned out that she had a stepfather who had told her that when she was growing up. You'll never amount to anything, over and over again. And actually, she consciously proved him wrong. She went to school. She went to college first in her family, went on to get a degree so that she could be a therapist. And she had a thriving therapy practice, except it wasn't making any money. Her bank account literally was not amounting to anything. It's really interesting sometimes how our...
I love those stories. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we tapped on some of those memories of the stepfather saying this and how she'd felt when she was younger, and allowed in the idea that, yeah, I can totally amount to something and it's okay. I'm supposed to be making money. And then it was okay because then she could just send off the bills.
What's really interesting to me is that she's a therapist and she needed the tapping because of all the education she had. She didn't take it back to how screwed up he was to give her that kind of a message and where that was coming from in his background or whatever. And she needed to release it.
She probably had diagnosed him. She knew he was one messed up puppy. And yet, because this was about the subconscious, it really wasn't what the therapy training she had was meant to deal with for herself. She could know right up front, right?
But her body remembered her. That's interesting. And there's another story you talk about. You're one of 3 experts who are featured in Sarah Connell's bestseller, The Science of Getting Rich for Women, great title, in the section on the importance of and how to release blocks in your subconscious that get in the way of getting rich. You talk about Pam, who also, she removed her money blocks and increased her profitability and abundance through tapping. You want to tell us about Pam?
Well, Pam had a number of different blocks. That's very common. It's not usually one single block. Like, I'm a starving artist. It's gone. Oh, great. I can go make money. That's a great one. But usually there's a money ceiling. So you learn early on, you can have this much comfort in your life. And so you earn money up to that ceiling. If you ever make more, you get uncomfortable in a weird way and it comes back down. So actually, Pam was on a money roller coaster. So she'd make plenty of money and then it would start to go out again. It's like up and down, up and down. So sometimes it was unexpected bills. Sometimes it was that she stopped doing the work she needed to bring in the money. So she was on this money roller coaster, did not want that at all. So we went looking for the causes. So there were some of the usual ones, money's evil. It comes up a fair amount of time. People in my family don't have much money. And I can't even remember which other ones were in there. Is there a particular one you're remembering? But it was just this amalgam of them.
But just that she had all these different blocks. And so how long did it take you? Did it take you a really long time to tap away all those different blockages that she had?
Well, Pam had stuff going back to childhood. And so it really took us a few months to get all that stuff away. But, once you started releasing them, you can start seeing changes very quickly. So within a few weeks, she was starting to do better, starting to, keep going with the marketing and getting that out there so that she didn't have the drop off in the clients. The more we released, the less she had to have, spend the money on things that she didn't really need. And the more that she was able to be thinking about, well, what do I want to do with this money? How much can I allow in? Am I allowed to have that much money? Yes, I am. So it was, while I say a few months, it was nevertheless she started seeing some change pretty early on. And that's very frequent with tapping.
I think that, what I found when I was doing tapping recently was as things come up for me now, I more quickly identify, oh, there it is, boom, 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 boom. I identify exactly what that is. Now I'm conscious. It's kind of been brought up out of my subconscious into my conscious field. And you've got another woman named Jillian, right?
Yes.
And
Jillian.
You helped her through your MVP activator program. Go ahead.
She was a one-on-one client. So she wasn't in my group program. That's the MVP activator. She was one-on-one. And we did 6 months with Jillian because Jillian had a lot of blocks. Jillian came to me because she was taking this program that promised if she just followed the steps in the program, she was going to be making $10,000 a month. And she thought, okay, I'm going to spend the money. It's a big investment. If I do that, I will definitely follow through on this. And she didn't follow through. And she's like, what is going on? I must be crazy. I'm a bad business person. Something is wrong here. So she worked with me and we uncovered, so many things. But what really was the big one for her was that she had a brother growing up. And Greg was the golden child. Everything he did was wonderful. His parents doted on him. And she was kind of second class. Yeah. And it's unfortunate and shouldn't be. And yet it does happen. I've had a number of people who actually cried when I believed them when they said their mother was mean to them as a child. I mean, like literally didn't love them. And I believe it. Some people are that way. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong with the kid. But when you're a child and you get that, you internalize, I'm a bad person. I don't deserve. And so Jillian was thinking, I can't do better than Greg. I'm not supposed to. It's not allowed. If I do that, my parents will hate me. They'll kick me out. Or, this is not logical. But when you're 6 years old, that's how you make sense of what's going on. So she had some blocks in her around not outshining Greg. And so we tapped on those. Those were one of the first group of blocks that we released. And it was interesting because as a grown woman and very accomplished, she knew that made no sense. I mean, why would I have this? Why would I believe that? And yet they were so powerful. They were totally shutting her down. So she couldn't do the modules in this program that were going to really get her business out there, get her to making more money, and also making a bigger difference in the world, because that was very important to her. She was there to do something big, and she could do it if she could get out of her own way. So getting rid of those blocks around Greg was a huge first step. And so then she started to do those modules. And the more she did the modules, the more she uncovered some blocks. There were blocks around being more visible and talking about what she did. I can't do that. I'll be bragging. They'll hate me. They'll criticize me.
Another big one. Don't toot your own horn.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was great fun for me. I mean, I don't want it to make light of what she was going through. It was hard for her. But once she came to me and we were able to start releasing that, it started being easy for her to do the things she needed to do. And I just love going and looking for these blocks and releasing them. It's my jam. So
I love that it's called emotional freedom technique, because I think one of the things that happens when you go through tapping is you become more free. You're freeing yourself from all these blockages.
Definitely.
You're not anymore. You got all these programs. I mean, I was looking through your site and all that. You've got an MVP activator program. You have an unblock results individual programs, a mastery program, a transformation program, and a block eraser program. So let it rip, Nancy. Tell us what you'd like us to know about all these different things that you have available for people.
Sure. Well, my MVP activator is a program for women entrepreneurs. They come together and they get into small groups. And then I lead them through love seats, which other people might call hot seats, but they're love seats when we're in the MVP activator. And we tap and release all sorts of blocks that are coming up for them in those areas of mindset, visibility, and profitability. And they also have some recorded modules that I've made for them on common blocks so they can work on their own to as much as or as little as they want to with those recorded modules. So they get both the common stuff that they can work on their own and some individual stuff for the things that may not be so obvious, but I can usually pull them up and find what they are and release them. So, and those groups, those small groups of women get really tight. They're very supportive. They share resources. And
in person or online, or is it?
It's all the work I do is over Zoom. So the MVP clubs within the activator, those 5 women will show up with me on Zoom, and we'll spend our hour and a half together working on stuff. And then they will go off, and if they want to do the modules, that's online too. That's at a special site for them. And then I will have every quarter, I'll have a fast track day, which is some topic for half a day. We'll go dive deep in it and get some really fast momentum. And once a month, I have a tapping party for my MVPers, which is like whatever they want to work on. We sometimes do some surrogate tapping for others. We do tapping on issues that might be outside of the business realm. And I answer questions then too, but that's where all the MVPers come together. So
now I'm fascinated. Tell me about your surrogate tapping for others.
Well, that's kind of a fun thing. We don't do that too often, but occasionally someone will come and say, I'm really worried about my son, or I have a good friend who's going through something right now. And what is something you can try is to tap. I get the group to say, okay, I am the son. Okay, I'm whatever his name is. I am Barry, I'm Barry. And then whatever comes to mind, they'll say, oh, I'm getting these headaches because I'm so stressed at work. And I can't take care of myself. And just whatever it is, we'll come up, we'll tap, and we're making it up. Except the strange thing is, it often works.
Wow.
So what can I say? It's a fun experiment. It's been actually quite helpful when the few times we have done it for these women business owners. And honestly, if you're a woman entrepreneur, you are your business. So if you're worried about your brother,
right,
that's going to affect your how well you're working in your business, how well your business is doing. So I see it all as being relevant. And I am
part of a package, part of a whole.
It is, yeah.
Is there anything else you want? What's the block eraser program? And anything else you want to know?
Well, I have 3 one-on-one programs, different lengths. The 2 of them are just regular sessions, like weekly sessions. But there's one that's like 2 half days, about a week apart. That's intense. The eraser program is the follow-up. So if anyone finishes one of those 3 programs and they want to keep working with me, that's a way to keep working with me.
Oh, it's wonderful. So you, of all people, we're talking about all the importance of healing these subconscious blocks. Anything else you want to add about the importance of healing your stuff and not living with these blockages and the whole thing,
Yes. I think my biggest message here is, if you feel stuck, you should be able to be moving further, doing more, and yet somehow you can't do it. Please know it is not your fault. There's something in your subconscious that's holding you back. And it's not that you did anything wrong. It's just you internalized something, often when you were young. You often did it because you had to survive, to get along in the family, to be loved. But now it's outlived its purpose, and it's time to release it. And tapping, well, for me, tapping is the best way to do it. I won't say that it works for everyone, but man, it's pretty good for that. Whatever it is, find a way to release that, because you've got something big to do in this world. Don't let your subconscious hold you back from that.
And the other thing I would say to people from my heart is, if they are holding themselves back and they don't know what it is, they're also passing a message to those in their family and their kids and other people in their world. They're passing on that same damaging message that they got as a kid, yes. And they're living it through, instead of like role modeling that they can heal it and they can change it, and look at this.
Yes. Oh, yes. My mother, my wonderful, loving mother, gave me some of my biggest blocks, because she didn't know. They don't think they had tapping back when. Right. And she didn't have another way to heal it. So for her, it was truth. The world was limited in the ways that she believed it. And I picked that up. But by gum, I am going to get rid of all of those blocks so that I don't keep passing that on to my daughter.
That's right. I think it's wonderful. That I tell people all the time, and that's been my experience also. Why pass that stuff on? Pass the good stuff on, And you have an Uncover Your Subconscious Blocks quiz and free videos available on your website. So for anyone who's wondering, have I got unconscious blocks and should I be checking in with Nancy? What is this quiz about?
Okay. Well, the quiz is a kind of a lighthearted look at the ways that those mindset, visibility, and profitability blocks can show up. And if you take the quiz, you'll find out how much each of those areas in your business and your life are blocked. So it is specifically for business, but I tell you, anyone could take it just for the fun of it. But once you've taken that quiz, you get access to 3 tap-along videos that I made for releasing a common block in each one of those areas. The profitability one is I have to work too hard to make money. Visibility is it's not safe to be seen. And mindset, I forget what mindset is. It's probably I don't deserve it, because that's the biggie. And you can tap along with those as often as you want to, start releasing that, start lifting that burden, and changing your subconscious so that you don't have to live by that rule anymore. And if for your people, if you go to my website, unblockresults.com/rebirth, I thought it would be nicer to have rebirth than rebirth.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Take that quiz. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. And we should really probably provide a link or something to that when we come out with your podcast. So we'll talk about that. You say that after years of searching, you found your calling, which this is. And in what ways is finding work like this that fills you up bringing you joy? Because you were doing other things and they didn't bring you that kind of joy, right?
Very true. Very true. I mean, what I do now didn't exist when I got out of college. So I'm not going to say I did, it took a wrong turn. No, it all led here. But doing this tapping with people and seeing them go from, I mean, just in a session, you can see somebody go from really beaten down to filled up. It's almost they start to glow almost. There's no better feeling for me than to free somebody up from something that's been getting in their way, holding them back for so long. And then they get to go out and live the life that they are meant to live. So it truly does bring me joy to do this tapping.
It's very much like I feel about on this podcast, because so many people, it's helping people to heal. It brings me so much joy to be able to help them and share. Share the wealth, so to speak, of being free that way. So I'm really happy for you, Nancy. You know, it's incredibly inspiring to know that you're helping women to figure out and release the internal blocks that cause procrastination, avoidance, and self-sabotage through EFT or tapping. And I thank you from my heart for this empowering interview that has opened exciting new doors to healing and transformation for many women, I am sure, in this Grief and Rebirth podcast audience. And here's a loving reminder, everyone, that you can see the show notes and all Grief and Rebirth podcast episodes on ireneweinberg.com. And make sure to follow us and like us on social at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. As I like to say, to be continued. Thank you so much, Nancy, and many blessings. And bye for now.